I'm Terry Wallman, and my guest today on Making It is Barry Manilow's music director, Ron Walters Jr. So I thought the perfect way to kick off this week's show would be with a message from a very special friend.
Hi, Terry. Barry Manilow here. You know, I've been a very fortunate man, hit records, hit albums, hit live shows, and a beautiful personal life. But when I think about moments that I'm most grateful for, meeting Ron Walters Jr. is way up on the list. I am so lucky to have Ron working with me. First of all, he can do anything. I mean anything, from playing every style of music to orchestrating beautifully. But I just love him as a human being. He's funny, he's smart as can be, and he's the most decent man I have ever met. Yeah, I'm a real lucky guy to know Ron Walters Jr.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wallman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wallman.
Welcome to episode 150 of Making It with me, your host, Terry Wallman. You can find all of our episodes on entertalkmedia.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just go to my website, terrywallman.com/podcast. I really appreciate you joining us every week, and I encourage you to stay safe and mindful as we work together as a community to get through this global health pandemic. I'd like to share with you my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your life and art in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in. Success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with integrity, focus, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. My guest today is artist and music director Ron Walters Jr. Ron Walters Jr. is a keyboardist, composer, arranger, producer, and conductor. This Chicago native began his musical journey at an early age singing and playing drums in church. Heavily influenced by the music of Walter Hawkins, Andrae Crouch, Duke Ellington, and Count Basie, Ron fell in love with the piano and never looked back. He went on to study with Chicago jazz piano legend Eddie Baker and composer-arranger William Russo. Ron graduated from Columbia College, Chicago with a degree in composition and a minor in conducting. In 2004, Barry Manilow took Ron under his wing as his new music director. Ron moved to Los Angeles and has served as Barry's conductor, MD, keyboardist ever since. With Mr. Manilow, Ron has performed on stages and TV shows all over the world. His most memorable experiences so far have been conducting and performing for the Nobel Peace Prize concert in 2010 and conducting both the Los Angeles Philharmonic and BBC Concert Orchestra in 2019. His conducting and playing earned him an Emmy nomination for Best Music Direction for the PBS special Barry Manilow Sings Songs of the 70s. Ron's new Christmas EP, Incredible Love, is currently available on all music outlets. Ron Walters, welcome to Making It.
Hey, Terry. How are you, man? Thanks for having me. Wow, man, that intro, I'm blown away by that. What a surprise. That's the dude, man, the legend, Barry Manilow himself, my good friend, man. It's been great to work with him. And Wow, I wasn't expecting that. So thank you so much. Again, thanks for having me. I don't do this a lot, so I really appreciate the time, and thanks for asking me to be on. And however you've, worked that out, man, that was great to hear such gracious words, man, by somebody that means the world to me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thanks.
You're welcome. Happy to have you on the show. Been looking forward to this conversation with you. And this seems like the perfect time because you just released your first album, really your first album as an artist. You've been on a lot of recordings. You've produced other artists. But this is a really special time for you. And that's part of the reason that I wanted to have you on the show. So let's start with this album. Here's the question to you, because we're both artists. I remember my first record that I recorded was in 1988. I remember what that felt like. I still do. Yeah. And I remember so many vivid details of my interaction with the musicians and the excitement and fear of driving to the studio that first morning and, just every aspect of it. So with the understanding that you are probably going to remember this experience for the rest of your life. Tell me about how that feels right now for you to finally have your record out. And congratulations, by the way. And also, what has this experience been like for you? What was the easiest part, the hardest part? What surprised you the most? What are you most proud of?
Wow. Well, as far as, what's most memorable, I think the most memorable thing about it is the time in which, I kind of chose to do this. Like you said, I have, I've done other projects and stuff like that. And I did, I was in a jazz band in college, and we did our first record. And, I've worked with churches and stuff like that and done recordings and even, composed and produced for them. But this was my first thing on my own, after all these years, which is crazy, man. But, when you say, your drive to the studio and all of that, unfortunately, there was not a whole lot of that because of the time we're in. So, it was the walk to the walk to the workstation and stuff like that. But, I think the most memorable thing about it is, the fact that, the people I collaborated with, it was just fantastic to be able to do something like this, with everybody kind of being sheltered in their own space and stuff like that, and finding a way to still be creative and communicate with people and make music, that I'm just most thrilled about because, my first instincts was, it's going to suck, but, it's very rewarding in that from that perspective, because everything that I got back from different musicians and singers and stuff it floored me how it all came together and it all sounded great, and so that was very encouraging. It's a weird feeling because I'm not a young man, and over the years I've always written songs and even recorded some things, but never released anything. And I think that really because of this pandemic, I felt compelled to just do something, number one, creative, to kind of keep my sanity. Mm-hmm. And number two, I finally got to a point where I just felt like, I think it'd be great for people to hear some of this stuff, that, we've been working on. And, I started out with a much larger project, but, it kind of dwindled down to a select 3 that I really felt great about. So it will be special because it happened in 2020. Mm-hmm. And because it happened mostly virtually. I mean, I was able to do one session with my worship team, and we actually did that before the pandemic started. So I started this and figured, oh yeah, man, we're going to do a whole bunch of sessions. And it was one session.
Wah,
And then it was
wah,
like,
wah.
you can't be around anybody, Yeah. Oh man, it was heartbreaking, but, I'm so thrilled, at the result of these three pieces, because of that, man, because we couldn't connect the way we do as musicians. We're in a room and we feed off of each other, and there's an electricity that happens between us, when we're playing and recording, and that we didn't have the luxury of. So, it's definitely special for that reason. I'm so proud of how it turned out, and so happy with all the performances. So, from that perspective, it will always be special.
It sounds magnificent. Bravo.
Thank you, man.
Beautifully
Thank you
done.
so much. Appreciate that. I
I understand why this was important to do now, but what took you so long? I mean, why not before?
I wish I had a great answer for that. The only thing that I can say is, first of all, I don't ever think, I think maybe over the last few years, I kind of felt like I was an artist and artistic enough to do something on my own. I've never really felt that person. I've always, kind of taken pride in, my upbringing is out of the church, man. And so, as a piano player, I mean, I started on the drums and everything, but once I got in high school, I was playing piano, and music for me was, I learned it in church, and it was a huge level of accomplishment to be a really great accompanist, and not that I'm that, but that was,
I actually think you are, that I can say that.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I mean, listen, it's a never ending journey there, but
But you do have an
really,
understanding of how to follow a singer.
that I will say that definitely, on the pop stage professionally, if you're not following the singer, you're going to hear about it, but you're not going to hear about it during the song. In church, you're going to hear about it in that bar. You know what I mean? You're going to get a look, it's going to be fantastic. But I think for me, I hate to say or make an excuse, but I think I always focused on, being an accompanist, trying to be the best piano player I could be. And from there, I really got into composition and arranging and that side of things, and trying to help artists facilitate what their vision is. And I really got kind of caught up in that. Which, kind of led to the music directing and stuff like that. So I for lack of a better term, kind of in a different brain set than being an artist. And I always said, I don't want to be out front. I didn't want to do that. I like to be the guy that works with the band and works with the other musicians, help arrange a tune or help, when I was in church, when we were writing compositions, I was the guy where I was like, if you start a composition, I was like, I'm the bridge guy. Like, bring me a tune, let me hear the tune, I write the bridge. That was my thing. And, man, it was like, that was that was kind of the juice for me. I didn't really have a, I don't know, I didn't have a pull to do something as an artist until the last few years, just because I had more time. And I started looking through and kind of sifting through a lot of compositions that I hadn't done anything with. And a really great friend of mine, a guitarist friend of mine who I kind of played with all my life, Felton Alford, who's like my best friend. And he said to me, that music's not doing anyone any good on your hard drive.
Right.
And, that was kind of I honestly, that was a huge moment for me, because I don't know why, but I went, oh yeah, I should, maybe I should, let people hear it. And, especially honestly, Terry, the one thing this year has taught me, and you may feel the same way as a musician, but I feel like our jobs, even though none of us are working right now, I feel like our jobs and what we're able to do creatively is a huge benefit for society. It always has been. Artists are a great benefit to society, but I think it's even more important when people are so without hope. I think that we have, if you have the opportunity, then you have a responsibility, because you just never know what chord change, what lyric, what melody is going to make a person feel better. And we need a lot of that. We needed a lot of that this year. And so that, to be honest with you, not to be on a soapbox or anything, but I think that played a lot into it for me too. I had a lot of personal experience with this virus, friends and family, that were, that contracted it and lost people that I knew very well. And so, I think that was a big deal for me to, like, listen, man, I'm not a doctor. I can't do any of that. You feel so powerless, but I do know that, music is healing. And if I can contribute, 0.000005%
like a streaming
to
royalty,
the healing process. Yeah, like your Spotify royalty. If I can be part of that in any way, then that's what I'm here for, I think. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, why have it? Why have a skill or a talent and not use it in that way? So
I'm curious, and I want to talk about your upbringing and your family and a lot of things. I have a lot of questions for you. But having grown up in the church, mm-hmm. and your dad was also a pastor.
My dad was assistant pastor. Yeah.
Is there kind of a sense of humility or a sense of ego, or that you shouldn't have ego and make anything about you as an artist?
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know about that. I definitely, you're not, you're a vessel or a vehicle for, music is not ours, whether whether you receive it from, a musician, or you're the musician or singer or what have you, that delivers it, is not ours. It's, all of it belongs to God. Now, he graces us with these abilities to be able to utilize this again for, like you said, to spread joy. If for any reason you take that too seriously and apply that to the fact that it's you, then ego will come into it. My upbringing in the church, I think I understood at an early age, just from everybody around me, that it's not you. It's never about you. And if you're put into a position where you have the opportunity to share anything that any talent or skill, or honestly idea that God has given you that can be a blessing to someone else, that's really what life is all about. We're here to love each other, and we're here to show that. We're here to, like you said, spread joy. You can't have an ego about that, because it ain't you. I mean, you don't make it. You didn't invent it. So, I mean, I don't know that played a part, but that's definitely something that was definitely instilled in me at a young age. And the other thing with ego, especially in the church, listen, I mean, not everybody has the same experiences, but I know me, as far as the church is concerned, there's so many amazingly gifted people. You really don't have time for ego. You don't. I mean, because, there's at my church, man, there was 10 other people that could cut you, man. I mean, and not even think about it. And that's just the way it goes. So you don't have time for that. It's a service, that's kind of the application, especially with musicians at church. You are serving. And so maybe that plays a little bit part into it. I always considered myself, after I got a certain age, was like, I'm a facilitator, and I like facilitating. I like it. I want to be good at it, and I want to be a help, or, at least, a positive force for artists that, that feel like I can bring something to the table. So, yeah, I mean, maybe all of that kind of played into me never recording anything until now. Maybe.
It's interesting to me listening to you speak, because we both are music directors and conductors. And I think people might be surprised to hear me say this, but you might agree with me that when you come at it from being of service to the song and to the music and being a facilitator as a music director and producer, it's kind of an egoless job to do. If you do it from that intention, it really is, even though you are the point of focus, or at least the reflection of the point of focus, which is the artist that you're conducting for, it's about you, but it's really not about you at all. You are the facilitator, and it comes through you, and you just kind of guide everything. I think that's why I love watching you conduct, because you are like a really bright lighthouse of information. Here's where the beat is. Here's where we hold that chord. Wow. But it never feels distracting in any way. It just feels like you were just there to serve the song.
Well, yeah, I think, I think that's the job. I mean, listen, working with Barry, the heavy lifting is his gig, and, he, I think that I've definitely learned a lot from him, but one of the biggest things I've learned from him is his work ethic and how much effort and thought he puts into maybe what would be the smallest moment of a performance, or the smallest detail of a recording. When you work with a person like that, the goal is, first of all, not to screw it up, because, and secondly, to not get in the way. And so, if your head is in it, and your ego, I mean, there's just no space for that, man, because at the end of the day, you're not serving you, you're serving what you've kind of witnessed and you believe is a great idea and something that's gonna move people. And once you attach to that, it's like, whoa, I want to make sure that I can help articulate his original idea, the artist's idea, or the composer's idea, the arranger's idea, and as a conductor, get that point across in the moment, but no, it can't be about me, so.
We both studied conducting in college. Did you learn that point of view about how to music direct and conduct? Where'd you learn that? I did not learn that in school. Did you learn that from your conducting teachers, or did you learn that from church, or just being in the world?
I think both. I had two really great conducting instructors. One was William Russo. The other one was Alfred Gross. And Dr. Gross was my first conducting teacher. And he was a brilliant violinist, but he was, probably a more brilliant conductor. And he was a taskmaster, man. But if at any moment he thought you were fake, or he thought that you were not really reflecting the music, not really honoring what was on the page, and interpreting that, you heard it. I mean, that was my first experience with, being authentic. If you're going to lead a group of people, in a performance or anything like that, just letting the music be the boss. And, I did learn that from him. Same thing from William Russo, who I spent kind of more time with in college. But that it's the same in church as well. I mean, like I said, that all goes back to being an accompanist and, really following the singer, really, not, the whole thing is not leading. It's, it's following well. And like I said, I think it's a journey that you never get off. You never get off the journey. But yeah, I definitely would think that I would say I kind of got it all in different directions. But it doesn't crystallize until you get on a stage and a platform like, with an artist like Barry, who, you wind up in so many different environments, kind of all over the world. And those things matter, man, because at the end of the day, it's those little things that you can't forget no matter what environment you're in. And no matter who you're in front of, I mean, I've been really fortunate to conduct some orchestras that probably would never hire me, cause I mean, honestly, I don't have that pedigree. But because of him and because of his catalog of music and these opportunities that come up, well, the best thing I can do is the one thing I know is I know his stuff, and, it's try to interpret that the best way I can, interpret what I know he wants, what I know he's written, and, like I said, just don't get in the way of it,
What is it like for you? I think it probably makes this even more meaningful for you and more interesting musically, but the artist that you are music directing for, Barry, is a brilliant piano player and arranger and conductor. He's got the same skill set.
Yeah.
Do you find that makes it in some ways easier, or is it more daunting? Or I would seem like it would just connect. It's everything.
It's hell on earth, man.
Right.
No, I mean, it's he's the most demanding person I've ever met in my life, but yeah, you're not gonna fake your way with this guy. Mm-mm. It's better to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cause he's kind of, he's been exposed to everything, and he can conduct, he's music directed, that's his lineage.
Well, that's his background for people that don't know. Barry was the piano player, arranger, accompanist, songwriter. He's a musician.
Right. So, I mean,
brilliant
right.
musician.
He's a real true musician. And
he's one of us.
And,
yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you like I said, that's why I always kind of couple, I'm his music director, but I always say, our time together has been more of a mentorship, because all of these things he really knows how to do. He really knew how to do. And a lot of it, I had been exposed to, but, not on this level.
Right.
So a lot of it I've learned from him, and it is, I joke about it, but it's been an incredible journey, man, just to kind of get a bird's eye view into his world. And, the kind of prolific nature of this guy and his music and stuff. It's a masterclass, man, because, there's nothing a guy really, I mean, I always say from a musical standpoint, people don't really get how versatile he is, how versatile his ideas are. I mean, we know him as, this pop singer, pop balladeer, that's kind of what people associate with him. But, his sensibility, is off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you're very rarely, I would say, you're just not going to get in a room with a person that has that much of a high sensibility and a high IQ, for the lack of a better, just musically knows what works, knows what doesn't work. Like, there's very few people that you're going to get in a room with that's going to be on that page. And I'm sorry. And, a lot of people don't know that. If you've had some time with them, you spend some time with them, in those circumstances, you'll get it. And everybody does.
One great example of that, if anybody's in doubt of what you're saying or not really clear about it, go take a listen to the American Bandstand song that Barry wrote.
Right.
Not only wrote, but arranged with the chromatic horn lines and the very sophisticated vocal arrangements.
Yeah, yeah.
It is unlike, it's at such a high level of not just songwriting, but arranging. It's off the hook.
Yeah, definitely, man. And, he's got a whole catalog of stuff like that. So, you can't phone it in. You go to work, and that's for everybody in the camp. Like, you come in with your best foot forward every day,
right.
Because of that. And, it's great. It's always a challenge. And for me, as a band leader and stuff, it's always a challenge. It's never, well, I'll phone a day in and, I'll get back at it in a couple of days. Every day is a challenge, a good challenge. And, from that perspective, you got to be grateful, man, because you can't help but grow in those circumstances,
I want to talk about your early years and upbringing, but since we're talking about Barry right now, let me just ask you this one question, because I'm very curious about it. In the context of full disclosure, you and I are friends. We've known each other for a few years and have done some performing together and collaborating. And
yeah.
But in researching for this show, I went and Googled you, and you don't have a lot of social media presence.
Right.
There's not a lot about you that I could find out from going on the internet.
Yeah.
A lot of my guests with your credentials and your experience and your level of expertise have Wikipedia pages and all the various things. You do not, which, by the way, I think is kind of cool. It threw me at the beginning, and then I found it quite refreshing. It certainly has not held back your career in any way. I don't think it has. And we can talk a little bit more about social media in a minute. But my question really is, how did you get plucked out of Chicago from Barry? And, how did that happen? What was that, and what was that like? And what was moving to LA like? That was just a huge shift in your life.
Yeah, it was. It was completely unexpected. This whole thing started. I had there was a singer in Chicago, and I played for her from time to time, and she told me about an audition she was doing, and it was an audition for a show that Barry and some of his, writing friends had put together. And they were, for whatever reason, they decided to mount it, to kind of workshop it in Chicago. She got wind of the auditions and she wanted to audition, and she asked me to go and play for her. And my thing, when she first told me about it, I said, they're going to have a pianist there. That's how auditions are. Like, they're going to hire a piano player. But she wanted me to go down there and play. And so I remember I went down there with her, and I forget the tune she did, but they had an audition pianist there. But I walked in with her. I sat down with her, and I want to say she did "God Bless the Child" that's got his own. And I played for her. And it was interesting because she finished singing, and her name was Stormy. She was a beautiful singer, man. But she finished, and when she finished, Deborah Bird, who was Barry's vocal director,
longtime singer, vocal director,
time. Yeah, she and Kai Brackett were running the auditions, and when she got finished singing, they were both very complimentary. But Deborah, out of nowhere, man, I'm like getting my jacket and, I'm getting ready to walk out with her. And Deborah says to me, would you mind staying for a minute? Could you stay in the room? Mm-hmm. And, basically said goodbye to Stormy. Mm-hmm. Now, we rode together, and so like I was in their room. I mean, I was in their room for another couple hours because she wanted me to stay. And, I didn't play anymore, but I hung in the room and I basically, she didn't say much to me for a while. When they had a break, she came over and the first thing out of her mouth, she asked me, did I sing? And I said, well, a little bit. I sing in church, and so she asked me to sing and play something. I did, maybe 4 bars or something from church. Sure. And she said, wow, thank you so much. She said, okay, well, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you. And that was it. Mm-hmm. And I left and, it was terrible, man, because my singer friend, she had been out there for hours. Yeah. I walked out. I said, I don't know. They asked me to sing something, and I did a little bit of something. And, we got in the car and we went home and everything. And a couple of days later, I got a phone call from someone I didn't even know that asked me to come back to that same location. Mm-hmm. And I thought that they needed a rehearsal pianist. Sure. That's literally what I thought. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, sure. I would love to, no big deal. And I walk in and same setup, but it's an audition table. And like I said, the first day it was just Kai and Deborah. Mm-hmm. I come back this next day and, it's like 85 people behind this table, but dead center is Barry Manilow. And I'm like, holy moly, wait a minute. So, yeah, man, again, they had another guy there that played all the auditions. Mm-hmm. But there were a couple times where Barry would say, hey, what's the guy's name? Like, that's Ron. Ron, can you play for the next person that comes in? And, I did that a couple times. And, I remember once, I don't know what we were playing, but I played for one singer, man, and he stood up like, yo, cause I kind of played something off the page or something like that.
Yeah. You put your foot in
it. And that was kind of it. And then, there was a little bit of a break and he walked over and he said, yeah, so I'm putting this show together and, I need a local band here, and can you put a band together? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, man. I mean, none the wiser. And yeah, man, we talked and I was like, okay, I guess this is something that's going to happen, that kind of thing, man. And I never forget, man, we were in a high school. They were doing these auditions in high school. Mm-hmm. And there was a moment where they asked him to come up and, they were putting all the kids in the auditorium and cause they all knew he was there and like, they were hustling and bustling. And so I think the principal said, can you come up and just say something? It was a performing arts high school. Now that I remember, it's Duke nice. Ellington Performing Arts High School. And so we all go upstairs, with him and he's just we figure, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but, we get up there and he's just kind of, he's greeting everybody. He played a little bit. He sang a little bit and he's like, yeah, I'm putting together a show and we're going to do it here in Chicago, and started introducing people. And he's like going down the row, man. And I'm standing there like, oh my God. Cause I'm like, I don't, and this guy, this is Ron Walters. He's from here. Like, he's a Chicago native and he's my new music director for the show. And I'm like, what?
I am.
And yeah, and that was kind of it, man. Wow. We went on to do that show, Could It Be Magic? Mm-hmm. And, we had a great time doing that. And then that show actually ended because of 9/11. We were, kind of doing well, and then 9/11 hit and people stopped going out, sure. Of course. Right. And, so I didn't hear from Barry for a couple years or so. And then, the next time I heard from him, he was doing something on American Idol. And since he was working with these younger artists and performers and stuff. He asked me to come and do some arranging for his week. It was like Manilow week. And I did that, man. And, it just kept rolling from there. It was like, we did 2 weeks out in LA. And, as those 2 weeks were winding down, he just said, yeah, I'm not letting you get away, man.
Yeah.
So, so yeah,
He's a wise man.
I definitely, well, listen, I was, I wasn't quite ready for, what all this was, but it definitely happened unexpectedly. And, moving to LA, my biggest reason for moving to LA is because at the time I had 2 babies, 2 really small kids. And I was really concerned that, I'd be gone so long, they wouldn't know who I was.
Right.
And so I moved to LA, and I tell everybody that asks me about my move to LA, as flighty as it may seem, or Disney-esque as it may seem, I really, I had no idea that I would like living in LA or that I would like being in LA. But I have to say, after being here for a little bit of time, I felt like I was in the majority. Chicago is a really, it's a working town, and I love Chicago, one of the greatest cities on the planet. But as a creative person, I felt it when I moved here. I felt there was the level of creativity and the energy of it. I felt it. Now, maybe you think I'm crazy, but I did. And I immediately thought, oh yeah, this is where I should be, So, it happened fast, Terry. It happened really quickly, and my head was spinning for a while.
Right.
But, it was exciting the whole way.
You also had the very unique experience, unlike most of the guests who have been on the show, and unlike my own experience. You moved here with a job.
Yeah.
And an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the other thing about people from Chicago.
They don't move nowhere without a job.
We ain't going nowhere without a gig, man. Listen, that's just I don't care. I don't care what the opportunity is. You can say, hey, 6 months from now, you're going to you're going to be playing like Terry. 6 months from now, I'm going to hire you to play with Sting, and you're living in Chicago. Right. And you go, talk to me in 5.5 months. I'll get out there the week before. That's right. That's the way we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very fortunate. Yeah. And I think we're paranoid,
Yeah. I moved out here with 2 guitars, a champion juicer, and a dream, Seriously.
Yeah, no, listen, I know, I definitely know that's not the norm. No. I'm extremely fortunate and grateful that, when I tell people that, it's like, oh my God, wow. I do know that was very fortunate to have a gig, and to move under those circumstances. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. Man. Pretty crazy time.
Thanks for sharing that story. It's great.
Love it. Man, thanks for asking that, because I hadn't even, thought about that in so long, man.
Are you still friends with Stormy, or did she quit talking to you?
She actually stopped talking to me.
She did? Yeah.
That's
too bad.
I haven't talked to her.
That's too bad.
I haven't talked to her since that day. Now, I don't know that we wouldn't be cool, but I do know at the time, when things really got going, and I reached out to her to let her know, like, yo, they're calling me back down there. And she's like, well, wait a minute, they didn't call me. And I'm like, I don't know. But when things started unfolding, man, I did let her know what was going on. And, she was cool and everything, but I know she was more disappointed that she didn't get the
That's understandable. Absolutely.
And man, a brilliant singer. So, but yeah, unfortunately, we didn't we didn't stay in touch, man. So yeah.
Let's talk about your early years growing up. You had said that you started playing music when you were 7, starting with singing and playing drums. And I know a little bit about your mom and dad, that your mom's a retired school teacher and an attorney. And your dad is a retired general contractor, pastor, assistant pastor, and also an attorney.
Yeah.
The question that I'm curious about before really talking about the family and everything is, with 2 attorneys as parents, and my parents were school teachers also, so I get that part of your influence. We share that. But with 2 attorneys in the family that brought you up, where did they rub off on you? Do you see some of those skill sets coming through as a music director and producer?
Well, you know, most of my childhood with them, they were getting their law degrees. So, you know, when I was coming up, my mom taught school for, God, over 30 years. And then eventually became an assistant principal. The thing is, you know, my mother and father both worked multiple jobs. And so when my mom, she was a school teacher, but she was also a secretary for an attorney. And my mother was like a lightning speed typist, you know. So because of that, she got a lot of secretarial work. And so, you know, school teachers, you know, they don't make any money. She just loved kids and loved doing that. But she had a second job working for this attorney. And this attorney, man, he loved my mom and he loved my dad. And so, you know, my parents were kind of, you know, they were well into other careers, but because of this guy had such a huge client base, you know, and he was a lot older than them. As he started to get up in age and move towards retirement, he talked my mother into getting a law degree, which, you know, because she had learned so much. So by the time I got in high school, they started going to law school. So the attorney part of it, I didn't really experience. By the time they were, you know, they got their degrees and stuff, I was in college already.
Right.
You know, I think the stuff that kind of rubbed off on me, you know, with both of them, my dad was a contractor. He poured concrete and a carpenter and all of that stuff.
Did you work on site with him when you were coming up?
I never worked on site with him because once, you know, I think, you know, because of him, I've always had a propensity to be handy and stuff like that. Yeah, that kind of stuff you know, if you live in a house with that, you know. But I think that, you know, my mom is very organized, very detailed. And I definitely get that from her. She was one that, you know, kept notebooks and always wrote things down and, you know, just, you know, very regimented with stuff like that. And, you know, when I was a kid, I hated it, but she always told me to do that. And I, you know, get a notebook, write it down. That was her thing always. And I was like, whatever, man. But, you know, it really came in handy, you know, later in my life. You know, my dad was, a little bit different. My dad was more of the free thinker, and you know, he was definitely one that I think he was always a hopeful person. No matter what the circumstance, he always had a hopeful outlook, and I definitely got that from him because my dad could look at a train coming his way and say, I think it'll stop. I mean, it's like, you know, 300 miles an hour coming at you. And it's like, I think the brakes are going to work. That was my dad. So those things I got from them. You know, later in life, like I said, by the time I was in college, they both, you know, got their law degrees and stuff like that. And, you know, it was a joy because for them, it was a little later in life that they moved into that kind of career. And I got a chance to watch them they really love the law, and they love, I mean, it's like on so many levels, so I don't know that really, I don't know. I don't know that I was influenced by that part of what they do, but definitely my mom is a school teacher and being regimented, and my dad, I think just, my dad was a creator. He was, when it came to carpentry and stuff like that, he saw that as a kind of a creative thing. And his work was really good because of that. Because he always tried to, no matter what project he was working on, if he's building a kitchen for a neighbor, it had to be, a kitchen that no one had ever built before. And that, for me was huge, man. Cause I'm like, well, I mean, everybody's got a kitchen, but for him, it was like, oh, no, this is an opportunity to make something great,
right.
So yeah, those are the things that I think influenced me with them.
So growing up, how did you at 7 years old talk your parents into letting you play drums? Because I was banished from drums.
Yeah.
I wanted to play drums. They said, okay, you're going to be on a practice pad for 6 months. And I finally worked my way up to a snare drum. I think I studied another 6 months or a year, but I thought, by the way this is going, I'm going to be 30 years old before I get a full drum kit.
Right.
So do they encourage you to be a musician, to express yourself musically?
Well, I think, when I was younger, because it's, let's find something for him to do.
Right.
My mother always says, I was definitely her most destructive child.
How many kids in the family? How many siblings?
4. I'm the oldest of 4. And, my mom just kind of felt like, well, if we get him some drums, then all of that energy will go into
he'll tire himself out.
Now, tire himself out. I mean, we'll have to put up with the noise. But we had a decent size, we had a pretty large house. And so they kind of put up with it. I had a certain range of time when I could play. Mm-hmm. And, I think it was helpful for them because it meant that, I mean, listen, I would do stuff like, you go in the bathroom and the piping from the sink, I've removed a piece of it because I just could. Mm-hmm. And so for her, it's like, well, listen, if we can, we can
keep them busy,
tunnel that. Keep them busy. So they were all for it at certain points of the day. Me playing the drums, but once they got home, it was like, give me the sticks.
So what about singing? Was the singing something that just came natural? Did everybody in the family sing?
Singing? No, my grandmother was the singer. My grandmother had just a beautiful, beautiful voice, and was an enormous jazz lover, man. So anytime I was at her house, that's all she played. Mm-hmm. She had records of everybody. She loved Dinah Washington. That's the only person I know in my family that could sing. But I started singing, my dad, being in ministry, and my dad loved Walter Hawkins and Andrae Crouch, and every record that they released, he bought. And that was my young, music education, because that's what was played in the house. That and Motown. It was Walter Hawkins, Andrae Crouch, and any Motown artist. Outside of that, man, I didn't even know what music was outside of that, to be honest with you. But I listened to that stuff so much, and the songs just kind of get in you, and I would just sing it. And we at church I would sing, and I hated to sing because I was I had stage fright. So, there were times when our pastor would ask me to sing. She thought I had a really great voice, and I was little, but I would, oh my God, I would cry. I would just like break down crying and everything. But she kept making me sing, and my dad kept making me sing and stuff. But the thing is, I to myself, like at home and stuff, I love singing, not so much as a singer but I love the songs, and I learned those songs, and I didn't know what they were doing, but I knew I loved the quality in their voice, and that these, especially Walter Hawkins, I thought he had and still, I think, one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And he had such a large range,
right.
And I was like, wow, that guy can sing high, That's the stuff that appealed to me as a singer. And all I was doing was kind of imitating that. So yeah, I love to sing, but I didn't want to sing for people. I didn't want to do that. I just like to, try to make the sound,
I don't know if you remember this experience that we had together, but you had come to my recording studio. I believe you were co-producing Barry Manilow Sings the Songs of the 70s. You needed to do a vocal session, stacking vocals.
Yeah.
As it turned out, my studio was a good place for you to do that. And you came over.
It was great, man. That was a great room, man. Yeah, I love that room.
Thank you. I missed that studio. It was great. It was my old house, and we made some great music in there. And I'm so happy that you and I got to do that together there as well. At one point, I didn't know this about you. I didn't know that you were a singer. You don't present yourself as a singer. You generally just play.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that was something that you were good at. And you went to sing a part to the session singers that were in the room. And I could not believe how beautiful your voice was. And I was surprised. I don't know if you remember how surprised I was. And I said, I didn't know that you could sing like that. I don't really sing. I said, what is wrong with you? If I could sing like you, I would just be singing all the time. And I understand a little bit more now why, if you had stage fright when you were a kid. But it surprised me that you had such a gift that you weren't
Thanks, man.
Embracing or taking advantage of.
Yeah, you can tell yourself a lot of stuff, man. But you're right. Listen, I have over my lifetime have heard some of the most, like you, I'm sure, have heard some of the most amazing singers, man. So, yeah, I don't by any stretch of the imagination call myself a singer. I think that if I work at it, I think I can carry a tune, and that's kind of my thing. You'll never get me to say I'm a singer ever. It's
all relative, though. You're right, because it's what you just said about what we tell ourselves is kind of an interesting thing. I remember years ago, I was hanging out with James Ingram. We were at a friend's house, and we were in the kitchen and just kind of catching up. And James just sort of off the cuff said, he goes, man, I'm not even the best singer in my family. And I said, what are you talking about? God. And he goes, oh, no. He goes, I'm not the most talented singer in my family. And I said, are you talking about your brother Philip, who's a great session singer? He goes, no, I'm not even talking about Philip. I'm talking about my brother who's a minister. He lives like in Central California. God. He sings circles around the rest of us. He just hasn't wanted to be a professional singer. And that kind of stunned me.
I tell you, Terry, listen, from James Ingram, that's pretty remarkable. But I will say that in the church, in the church world, over my lifetime, I've known some singers that you just can't believe. And you'll never know their names. I mean, they don't, literally, they have no aspiration outside of
worship,
the ministry,
right,
and worship. They have no aspirations outside of that to be well known, to be popular. So I'm sorry, but when you cross paths with people like that literally, man, it's like they open their mouth and if God has a voice, that's it. I'm sorry, man. It just pales in comparison to me. But to hear that from James Ingram is kind of crazy.
It is.
That's one of the most synonymous voices ever.
Absolutely.
Good Lord, that's crazy.
It's all relative. It's all, like you said, what you tell yourself. And there is a little bit of happenstance involved. James was discovered by Quincy Jones when somebody was pitching a song that James had sung the demo.
Wow.
As the story goes, that's a great song. Who's that singer? I need to meet him.
Yeah, right. Wow.
And that's why we know of him in the same way that you got plucked out of another city showing up haphazardly or randomly and divinely as the universe and life works and as God works, and that you got plucked out of being just a rehearsal pianist when one wasn't needed to working with an iconic artist like Barry Manilow and all the wonderful things that have happened. It's always so interesting to me. our careers, certainly in the entertainment business or in the creative arts, it's not linear and it's not logical. It's not based on our talent and our gift and our dedication or focus or discipline. We know we don't need to mention names, but you and I both know a lot of people. Some are famous, some are just working a lot that aren't particularly disciplined. They're not even necessarily focused. If they couldn't play or they couldn't sing, they'd be asking if you'd want fries with that. And some of them are not nice people. They're kind of arrogant. They're condescending. They don't have a lot of gratitude, but somehow they still have these remarkable careers.
Yeah.
And it's always amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's like you said, it's not logical. I go back to I forget the scripture, but there's a scripture in the Bible that says the race isn't given to the swift or the strong, but to the one that endures. So I always chalk that up to, listen, I mean, you're not going to get along with everybody, and your personality is not going to mesh with everybody. But I have to think, to be honest with you, if I get if I'm in an environment, if I'm in a room with some amazingly talented people, the reality is whether they're nice or sweet, is not, unfortunately, it's not relative. Yeah. I mean, it's heartbreaking at times, but something got them in that room, and so it's a quality. Everybody's been, given a quality. And if you take the opportunity and you endure what you need to endure to get there, you may be a complete asshole.
Right. Oh yeah. We know that.
Get there, but we do. We know. But it's not for me to say that they don't earn the right to be there, or I don't know that we earn it, but that they're, the opportunity is given to us all, and so,
yeah. Just to quote one of my favorite Kebmo songs, there's more than one way home.
Yeah, right.
There are many paths to achieve and to facilitate
That's right.
music.
That's right.
You threw out a little scripture. There's something I read last night that made me think of you. Forgive me if I don't get it completely accurate, but let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. I'm Jewish. That's from Matthew, from the scripture. However, that's more the road that I follow and that you follow. Like you said, we are the vessel. I don't believe that the music is ours. In our best moments, it comes through us.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. That's a great scripture as well. Be in our, like I said, just getting out of the way. And, we've been given, an amazing gift, and it's a gift that doesn't just bless us. It blesses, others. 'Cause listen, I can sit down at a piano for an entire day and I'm okay. Seriously. It does it for me. Now, I mean, somebody else may hear what I'm playing and go, doesn't do it for me. But the reality is someone else will and feel great about what they're hearing. It's that part that's the most important, man. It's, like I said, it's not about us, but, I'm fortunate and I'm grateful that I have this thing that I can't touch. I can't, I can't bottle it up, to be honest with you, but I'm grateful that I have it, and I'm grateful that, that I can express it, and, people respond favorably to it. So
now that you've dipped your toe into the water of being an artist yourself, do you want to do more of that? Are you feeling the joy of that?
I would like, I definitely would. What that means, I'm not sure yet.
Or are you just overwhelmed by the whole experience? Because I know it was overwhelming.
Well, I tell you, it was. It was shocking how overwhelming it was.
Right.
I mean, I called you more times than you probably wanted to hear from me. You and Melanie.
I actually appreciated that you invited me into your process. that you trusted me in that.
No, I definitely, they're friends that first of all, people that I know that have done this a lot, and, I was sure you guys have just had experiences that I haven't, had, but I was surprised because truthfully, had this been a project for another person, it wouldn't have been a problem at all. But immediately when it's you and it's, I went on a journey every day where I was like, I like that. I hate that. And oh my God, I'm terrible. And nobody's going to like that. I mean, I went that journey every day and it completely tore me up. And so, I did have to get to a place to realize that, if you're going to do that, if you're going to do this, then you have to be able to handle that part of it. But I think, listen, if these 3 songs had turned out horribly, you'd never hear me mention this again. You know what I mean? It's that the finished product was such a great collaboration with other performers and stuff like that. And I was so happy with the way it turned out. I wasn't content, I could still change it now, to be honest with you. At some point you have to let it go. But I think because the outcome felt so good to me, I would love to do more. Now I have ideas to go further and do some other things, and learned a lot, doing it this way. And,
well, let me ask you about that. And I'm curious because you and I had some really interesting conversations along the way in the process, because you did reach out to me as a fellow artist and producer. And I really enjoyed those conversations. And, a few of them were talking you off a ledge. And as we were talking about the other day, a few of them were pushing you off the ledge.
Right.
It wasn't, one direction or the other, but what's your takeaway on the conversations that you and I had along the way and your experience in doing this? Like, what did you learn? Was there anything significant in anything that we talked about that helped or made it harder? And one of the things I remember talking about with you is not just the ability to have an idea, but how to follow through, how to take it to the finish line.
Right. And to really, I mean, that is a big deal because, like I said, I started out with 8 or 9 pieces. Yeah, I mean, it's humbling when you realize that, I've got what I think are, really good pieces, and but the further you get, you realize like, well, that needs more time, and then you have to start cutting things. And so I think I learned a lot about that part, because there were moments, given the timeline of everything, where I figured, you know what, I just won't do this. I'll wait.
Did you feel like quitting?
I'll do it next year. Oh, absolutely. Every other day.
Right.
But the quitting for me wasn't, it was just second guessing myself. I just, I really learned that part of myself that, you're not as confident as you think you are. You're not. But, I think I felt like, that's okay. I don't know that I need to be, I think I can feel that and still move forward. The biggest thing was, like you said, seeing it through to the end and crossing the finish line
and trusting your instincts.
Yeah.
And your point of view, your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to, you hope that what you have to say or what you have to present is valid and that people are going to get it, or people are going to be, they're going to appreciate it, in some kind of way or another. And so, getting across the finish line, even with, like I said, less tunes than I started with, was still, it was still something that I had to kind of mentally prepare myself for every day. And then especially getting to a place where, okay, this is what needs to go out. And then getting those to the finish line. Yeah, it was a real thing. That was probably the biggest takeaway is, having an idea is one thing, getting it across the finish line where you can actually hand it to somebody to hear the idea or to, to experience the idea. It's a lot of work. The one thing that it's funny because, like I said, I have been a part of, a few record projects, man, but it's never been all on me.
Right.
Everything. And I have an enormous, not that I didn't have before, but I gained a lot more respect, for artists that are doing it independently. If you got like you and Melanie, and I think like, Cy Smith, man, to me is like,
I love everything she does.
She should write a book, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because she's uber talented, but it's the drive that she has. And we both know other artists that are like that. But, if you got a machine behind you, you got a record label behind you, which, it takes, there is, I'm not discrediting that because, you have to accomplish enough for a corporation to say, we got you, we're going to back you. And what all that entails. But as an independent artist, man, when you're floating the entire boat and you got to wear every hat, my hat's off to all of the independent artists, man, that are doing this and truthfully that have done it more than once. Cause listen, I needed a nap after 3 songs, man, to be honest with you. So no, I definitely learned a lot about this process from that year, because all of a sudden every decision was mine, whereas before it's like,
right.
Well, I don't like that B section. We're gonna change it, that kind of thing. All of a sudden it was every note. You're responsible for everything, and so. Yeah, huge, test of your ego and humility.
Well put. I agree. Every time, every album.
Yeah.
I want to just briefly ask you about your Emmy nomination for Best Music Direction. Congratulations on that. And
thank you.
That must have been thrilling and made you proud.
The
and
whole
your family
show
proud.
was thrilling.
Oh, it's a beautiful show.
Yeah, the show was another highlight in this tour bus. I feel like I'm on Barry's tour bus, but I got a seat near the front, and so it was just another huge memorable moment, man. And we were we had an orchestra that was a contracted orchestra, large size orchestra out of New York City. And man, the whole shoot was musically was phenomenal. It really was. But it was trying to get it all done in those few days. It was just like you had no idea what it was going to end up being, because, we shot so much stuff that didn't make it. We shot so much stuff, and man, it's New York, man. So everything has got to be immediate and fast, and it's a lot of money. And, there's so much pressure. The whole couple days, it was just pressure. And there were moments of just beautiful music, and then stress. Like, you name it. So to see the finished product and hear the finished product, man, I was completely blown away, honestly, by what we kind of all created. And to get an Emmy nomination was incredible. I definitely never expected that, but it was icing on already great tasting cake,
In addition to that amazing honor, you were also honored in being listed in the 2004-2005 edition of Who's Who Among African Americans. I think that's fantastic as well. That must have been
thrilling. Something else that I didn't know. My sister, my late sister, actually you know, came to me one day and like, I don't know how she found it, but she sent it to me, and I was like, did you make this up? You know, I thought she had like photoshopped some stuff together. She's like, no, man, you're on this list. I don't know how that happened, Terry. I don't, you know, it was fantastic, but I did write to them and thank them for including me. I never heard anything back from anybody, you know. I don't know how that happens. Somebody nominates you, and I don't know the process or anything, but yeah, that happened out of nowhere, you know. It was
That's magnificent.
Yeah, it was quite amazing.
It takes me back to the beginning of this conversation about, again, you not having a big social media presence until now. I mean, you've got an Instagram page that's banging right now. You know, that's kind of a new thing for you.
I got help. I had to get help. I'm just not, you know, the social media thing is, you know, it's just not, it's not my thing. I understand it. And you know, I think it's important, you know, connecting to people, and, you know, it's for us as artists now and creative people, you know, it's our lifeline, especially right now.
Yeah. With touring having stopped. Absolutely.
With touring having stopped and everything. So yeah, I had to get help from somebody that knew what they were doing. And, that's been a great help, and, you know, helping me connect with other people and stuff like that. But yeah, before that, oh my God. Yeah, it was, so that's why you had such a hard time, buddy, because, you know, I just never went near it, unfortunately.
Well, again, as I said, it clearly has not held back your career. You know, and there's something refreshing to me about knowing that it's not a place where you have put a lot of energy, that you're focusing on it now. But I think in a way I'm a little envious of you, because you just...
Wow.
Because it's a fine line, you know, you as an independent artist or as a self-employed musician, it requires and deserves for you to put time into handling your career. But it can also, there's always a fine line between that and it taking away from the actual craft of what you're doing. You know, not getting to pick up a guitar or sit at the piano because you've been handling your business.
Yeah,
how do you balance all of that and being a dad?
Yeah, thank God they're older now. But, you know, I don't have the answers. I mean, I do the best I can, like everybody, I think. And, you know, now being more aware of, you know, taking care of the social part of it, or the marketing business part of it. It's incredibly daunting. And, you know, there's so many hours, so you're not going to get it all done. You know, you just have to do as much as you can. You know, if I don't sit down at a keyboard, you know, I can maybe go a day without it. And, you know, after a day, but I think about it. If I don't play the piano today, like I know it and I hate it. After 2 days, like I'm not going to go 2 days without it. I haven't done it ever, but, you know, that's it, man. Like, you know, sitting down at the board for me is everything. And so to not be able to do that when you want to, because, you know, you got other obligations. And like you said, now, especially once this EP was released, man, it's like day to day, like, Jesus, man, this is stuff I don't want to be doing. You know, I'd rather be, you know, creating more music or something like that, or, you know, learning some other kind of music, or truthfully just practicing.
Right.
I would love to be doing that. But, you know, all of a sudden now, you know, I'm trying to figure out, you know, talking to bloggers and stuff like that, you know, but it's all stuff you got to do, man, because at the end of the day, you know, you're your boss, you know, and, you know, if people are going to experience what you have, then you gotta get it to them, or how do they know, you know? So it's definitely a juggle that I'm not doing well. I have to be honest with you. I'm not doing it well. I hope I get better, you know, as it goes. But for me, I'm okay. If the biggest thing for me is practicing. If I've done that day, and, you know, if I've spent time with my kids, Like, okay,
Right.
that's a productive day. Outside of that, I try to stack on as much as I can, and some of you get done, some of you don't. So
You're reminding me, when I was in junior college in Miami growing up, studying music, Sonny Rollins came and spoke in our music class. I'll never forget it. And he played and then spoke. And one of the things that he said that made zero sense to me at the time, and now I think of those words every day, is that he used to take, I think it was like about every 5 years, he would just step out of the music business. He would stop and just practice and play and go play on the bridge by his house in New York. And I said, why would you want to step away for the thing that we are training for and striving for and wanting to do? But I knew that there was something important about what he was saying, that there had to be a really clear reason. And he said it, but I understand it daily now.
Yeah.
As
absolutely.
my career grew, I would just think about that. He just said, I just need to reconnect with music. I need to have time with my instrument.
Yeah, I think that the bulk of what we do, the bulk of what what I feel, I think that the majority of the time is just you and your instrument. Right. And, everything else is kind of a spin-off of that. And if you don't have that time, there's a great photo. My friend Amber, who was our stage manager for years with Barry.
She's remarkable.
She's one of the best people, one of the best persons I've ever met, honestly. But she sent me this great photo, and I use it all the time. And it was an iceberg, a huge iceberg, and the way that they had a line drawn. It was a line drawn at the very tip, and the top part of it was the show, and underwater is this massive piece of ice that no one can see. That's, as large, filled up the entire photo, and that's the rehearsal. And I love that photo so much because it's so true. If the bulk of what I feel I'm doing, if the bulk of it is not, if the majority of my time is not spent playing for me, then the rest of it doesn't matter, So, like I said, I just feel like that's, if I'm going to be the better part of me, especially, for me, once I learned how to play the piano, I didn't take piano lessons when I was 6 or 7 years old. I didn't. I took drum lessons, and my parents, I was in All City in Chicago, but it was all for drums.
You played the cornet too, didn't you? When you were coming up?
No,
you did not.
No.
Okay.
No, I never played. I tried playing trumpet, but I didn't have the mouth, man. I couldn't. I was like, there's no way, But I did a lot on drums and percussion. But we had a beat up upright piano, and, I always, would play little melodies and stuff like that. I didn't really play piano until I got in high school, and I didn't play it, formally, until high school, because by the time I got in high school, I could hear chords and stuff like that. And then I was already the drummer at the church, but I started playing piano, and I started playing by ear.
Did you take formal lessons then at that point in high school and college? Or are you self-taught?
I didn't take formal lessons on piano until I got in college, till I got into college. I like I said, I had taken, boatload of lessons on drums and theory and all of that, but nothing on piano until I got in college. So, but in high school, I had a music teacher, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Murphy was really a choral teacher, but he was a beast of a piano player, man, gospel piano player. And, he took me on his wing, man. He showed me everything, it's one of those, everything I could, if I could hear it, or if I couldn't really get it, he was the guy. And so, I think because of that, when I was in high school, the piano got me through high school, because everything changed. You're getting older, and it's just such a different time. Sure. The piano for me was like therapy, man. I was playing the piano late at night. in my home and stuff like that. And, full disclosure, it was a time period in my family where my mom and dad were, they were having some trouble in their marriage. And, thank God everything worked out. But for me, I mean, of course, our family felt it. For me, that along with being in high school and like your body changing, your ideas changing, your mind, all of that going on at one time, man, the piano was an anchor for me. I played the piano every night into the morning. My mom never came downstairs and said, "You got to go to bed now." She never did that. So 2, 3 in the morning, they could hear me playing the piano. I mean, their door was closed, but I was working it out, whatever. And so, it was my kind of my therapy, man. So that's why I say, a good day for me is, if I'm hours on the keyboard,
That's a good day.
That's all good, man. Yeah, It's a good day.
Before we get to my closing questions, Ron, I wanted to ask you what lessons about art and about life you've learned along your journey, and also how your perspective has changed as you've gotten older.
Wow. Well, I guess I'll take the last one first. I think that when I was younger, my focus was as a musician was like, I wanted to be, the best that I could. I wanted to, I wanted to have all the chops, and play all the cool chords and all of that. To me, as a young person, that's what it meant to be, really good. What I've learned, like especially on this gig and just in general, is how important it is that I speak for myself, how important it is to be involved in a creative process that, that again, that serves people, and that, you can't say it enough, man, that helps or aids people in feeling better, because at the end of the day, that's what people remember. They, I'm sorry, but it's just no small, thing. So like for me, it's important, to be involved in that kind of art. That wasn't my agenda when I was younger. I wanted to play fast, play hard, and, play a lot. You know what I mean? I've definitely learned that, be involved in the projects or the song or whatever creatively, but the pilot has to be, it has to stem from, is it going to make people feel better? Is it going to make people think better? That's so important to me now, to be honest with you, especially after the year we've all had. I had a horrible year, which a lot of people can say that. And, I mean, not so much personally. I mean, a lot of things that I wish, I could have done this year or wish would have happened, but it's just it's the loss, and it's the shift in life, period. And, those things are the most important to me. So, I lost my grandmother a couple months ago, and she was she was one of my biggest musical influences, because she gave me my first jazz record, and I don't know that I ever thanked her, she's really proud of me. I know that she told me that all the time, but, I didn't expect that to happen. And, it's just when you start losing people left and right, you just realize that, what do you deposit? What do you walk away? What do people walk away from, after they have an encounter with you? Do they, I don't care if they think it's a nice guy or whatever. It's like, do you make a difference? Do you, if is there is, I mean, if I'm at least thinking about stuff like that, then I feel better about myself. You know what I mean? So that's I would say, getting older, that's become a lot more important to me. I forget the other question you asked.
It's really the lessons about art and about life that you've learned along your journey, which you basically just answered the question.
Yeah.
And again, how it might have changed as you've gotten older.
Yeah.
Is there anything profoundly different in the way that you think in this point of your life?
Yeah, I know that I'm not gonna do it all. I know I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna cover everything. The quality is definitely more important than the quantity. It may sound cliche, but and try to enjoy the journey. I think that I have focused a lot of my attention towards, like I said, specific things, and trying to be good at facilitating and that kind of thing, and certain aspects of I guess my career, without focusing on myself, and what I have to, as a creative person, what I have to say and what I can create on my own. And so, I definitely have more of a mind to do that, to do those kinds of things. I think ultimately, I'll be happier doing those kinds of things. And so yeah, I've definitely learned that.
That's perfect that you said that, because you actually just answered one of my final questions, which I don't need to ask you now.
Oh, wow.
Which is, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? And I think you very clearly just expressed that. So thank you for that. Can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
3 tips. Number 1, like we've said it, it is not about you. It is, for me, I found it, vitally important to, as my mom said, write it down. Write down what you've done and what you didn't do. Be authentic with everybody, because it will come back. It will come back around. If you're capable of, everybody always says, you don't walk into a gig and say what you can't do and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that, but, be yourself, because what you find out is if you don't know what a person or a situation is looking for, you may be exactly what that situation is looking for. But if you're pretending to be something else, then you may not get the opportunity, and you find out that, you actually were the right person for the opportunity, for that experience. Those are the 3 things that have helped me. I am neurotic about writing down the things that I've, done, and the things that I want to do. I dream on paper. I do that. And in most situations, I try not to make it about me. If it's not about me, if it's about whatever the situation is, there's got to be something bigger in the room, in the discussion, bigger than you. It has to be. And like I said, the 3rd thing is be who you are, man. Be who you are. Whether you feel comfortable with it or not, try to be as authentic as you can.
And my final question, Ron, to you. That's beautifully said, by the way. Thank you.
Thanks.
At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, wow. Take more time for yourself. Get to know yourself. Don't be scared. Explore who you are, get to know who you are. I think, creatively, I'm learning more about myself now, and I'm 50. I wish I had done it sooner. That's what I would tell myself. Like, look in the mirror a little bit more, and find out who that guy is, especially creatively. Yeah.
Well, you're doing it now.
Yeah. Doing it now, man. Yeah. Yeah. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Yo.
One of the beautiful ways that I see you doing that is by becoming an artist, by releasing some of the music that's been on that hard drive that you're talking about. So good for you.
Definitely,
Good for you.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. All your help, man, and encouragement. I can't tell you how much it means. I knew, I was like, I'm borderline like a nuisance. You know what I mean? Sometimes I would text you or text Melanie, like, what did you do when this was, and then a little bit later I'm going like, God, dude, just wait till tomorrow, that kind of thing. But I can't tell you, man, I appreciate all of the feedback and positivity, man. You guys were really amazing.
Oh, my pleasure. An honor. Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Ron, any final last words, closing thoughts to our audience?
I hope you like the music so far. It's just a glimpse, I think, a glimpse of what's to come, and take care of each other and be safe, man. I think if again, this sounds very utopian, like, I guess, but if we all do what we are best capable of doing, positively, hopefully we can turn all of this craziness around. I mean, I think it's possible. Call me naive, but I do. So yeah, practice our best selves, I guess, is my parting thoughts. And please check out my music and the stuff to come too.
You can find Ron's music at ronwaltersjrmusic.com, or go to the new Instagram page, instagram.com/official Ron Walters Jr. And Ron, thank you so much for spending the hour with me and sharing your music and your story. And to our audience,
thanks,
my pleasure. And on behalf of Ron and I, everybody stay safe, stay inspired, wear a mask, and be mindful. Thanks for joining us.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.